Jay, we all know that you really, really wanted to talk about this,
I
and
really didn't.
basically was
Like,
were telling us how much it's like your favorite DC animated film, like up there,
like
like it's kind
what
of like
even is the
close
fucking
to
story they're
Flashpoint and
trying to
Mask the
tell?
Phantasm. I remember you saying that. So I wanted to. What is it about this that makes you love it so much, Jay?
Like, what even is the story they're trying to tell? It's
Well,
so
I picture,
fucking weird and random,
well,
and it's not even like if it had been like an anthology of Elseworlds, like I would have got that. But they said no when they tried to tie it to their main story, and it's like, why? Like, what is the purpose of all this? Like, it's just weird. It's yeah. I don't get it. I'm all for Wonder Woman like shooting between the eyes. Like, that's awesome. Like, no matter how you look at it,
okay.
but it
Oh,
really
what
feels
kind of
odd that they would try to connect these unrelated stories into their main plot, and they do it so poorly. It's like they disappear at the end of from Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes, and then this happens, and then at the end of this, they're like, "Now we have to do with the real threat." It's like you literally could have took this movie out, and it would have been a better movie. Like if it
Wait,
didn't exist.
wait. It is so funny you say that because, like, first of all, I'm just realizing that that these are all supposed to be connected. They basically tell you like the movie itself admits that nothing that you've just watched matters at the end, and
right?
I was like, yeah, that feels right. That feels like the sentiment that you just expressed was like, everything you all just done was a waste of time. There's so many things wrong with this joint. Like, oh my god. Like, oh.
It was
Okay,
just
I'm sorry. Huh? Go ahead,
it
Mo.
was just right. I liked it.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
You don't know
You got
what you like, Mo.
you got Jonah Hex in it. Like, you got Jonah Hex in it. Like I love Jonah Hex. Like
I do know you like Jonah Hex.
yeah.
Didn't feel like Jonah Hex though.
Well, it's not. It's him altered and cloned a billion times to gather his most negative self.
And
Like
that was
it explained why he's not the Jonah Hex that I'm used to. You
Like
know?
he might as well have done the sign of the cross at some point.
No,
Really.
because
it
he's the most evil. Hey, see, honestly, that's because you don't read Jonah Hex. Like this, him being pushed like this would make him more of a villain than because he's the anti-hero he is. He's not a good guy. You know,
right.
I wouldn't even call
Right.
him an anti-hero. Like he's literally just he's more like the Punisher in a sense. He's not looking to save people. He's looking to fuck people up. And then being pushed for his negative energy, for more of his negative self, is perfect like that. The shit you saw on Legends of Tomorrow was him making you give you some guy that you could redeem in case they decide to do a show that you need to like. You don't need to like fucking Jonah Hex to enjoy his fiction. Yeah.
It's so funny because as I'm watching this joint, I'm like Jonah Hex showed up, and I'm like, oh, okay, like and I'm like, Mo doesn't get a lot of Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
And then the second thing had the Batman in it, and I was like, there's this world, and I'm like, I don't know what that world is, and I'm like,
What
Mo
the
might
fuck?
know.
You don't know what? Man, you never read Warlord?
No, I don't know what to tell you, friend. And then you get Lobo, and I was like Mo's gonna like this.
Yeah, I was mad Lobo wasn't in the center of the earth world. He should have been in all of it. He should have been the cowboy. He should have been. And then how he turned out at the end too was even better because he's like, oh, this dude's working for Mongol, and it's like I get it, like he's a bounty guy. And then how it all played out, I'm like, oh, this is tight. The voice was good. Fucking John DiMaggio. doing
Mhm.
this voice. Like I never thought I'd get over Brad Garrett not doing it, and now
Mhm.
I have another Lobo.
But it was DiMaggio and Superman, right?
No, it was Brad Garrett in Superman.
So, Oz, what was your thoughts on this Justice League War World?
I like the individual stories. I don't think you
Okay.
needed to tie them together to connect them to the other movies. We'll see what they do with the next one. Maybe that'll come into play somehow. I doubt it, but I don't mind having a movie that's just, 3 or 4 short stories with these characters, like an Elseworlds thing. And I think even in this one, they do mention that they're like interdimensional. Like I think they say like we're not from the Trinity, point out that they're not all from the same universe or something.
No, everybody else isn't.
Okay,
They are.
but it is a
Yeah.
multiversal thing, right?
Right. It's essentially like I felt exactly like I felt when I read Secret Wars tie-ins because I'm not reading the main book because it's not coming out, so I'm reading the tie-ins. So those little vignettes were like the tie-ins to it, and then I read the ending with Mr. Fantastic and shit.
I do
You
think
know?
the first 2 stories were, I want to say, cast wrong. Not wrong because they weren't bad. I don't mind seeing Wonder Woman as a cowboy, but I
Mhm.
think it would have been more interesting to put Bruce Wayne in the Wild West, where he's got to deal with the guns like nonstop
Mm.
all around him.
Yeah,
You
but
put Wonder Woman with Warlord, where she may be a better warrior than him, and have that kind of like tension and will they, won't they? But they probably won't because they got better stuff to do. And then the third one I was kind of fine with. It was about right.
from a more logistical way, storytelling way, I felt like we've all seen the Western stories. It's always Batman. We saw it in with there's a story with Jonah Hex and stuff. The Wonder Woman alone in the Old West, I've never seen, and this gave me that. It's not something I even thought I wanted to see, but she fits right in with her code and her willingness to live among killers and and do good among killers. You know.
And take some fools out too.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like she's not afraid to shoot him in between the eyes. Like you can't be in the Wild West and be afraid to shoot him in between the eyes.
Here's another thing that's been annoying me a little bit with these movies lately. And I'm talking about the DC animated stuff. And I get it because I understand how marketing works, but I don't like how they label things Justice League, and it's only Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. I feel like that's been happening more often.
Well, I think the way that these Tomorrowverse ones are going is like the Justice League isn't even fully formed yet. Like they're all building towards their formation, which will probably happen after Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I read Warworld, and so I was like, "Oh, that should be an interesting flick." And I'm looking at what I'm watching on the screen, and I'm like, "This is not Warworld.
What?
Like, this is not the only thing that I feel is in common between the Warworld comic book, which is a Superman book or a Superman event, but there are other people in it. But the only thing that is in common is that Mongol is in both of these, and I would even say I'm not sure Mongol's in this.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like that's
Like,
barely Mongol.
yeah.
dude,
It could be Dark
this
Side.
dude, this dude, but he's not even dark side. That's the messed
Oh,
up
okay.
part where he comes on the screen and I'm watching the character and I'm like, okay, so that's supposed to be Mongol, but even in the silhouette, like in the dark, I'm like, that doesn't look like that. Mongol looks weird. They're doing a weird design. Then when he comes in the light, I'm like, this fool is friggin' like Martian alien, some sort of hybrid. Like that's not Mongol. Like Mongol doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, that's like, and the wild part is if I can tell your character design is messed up from the shadows, It's like I'm like, wow, like I don't understand. Like I don't even at this point, I'm like, I don't even understand why we're doing Warworld. You're telling me like Mongol and Warworld, and those two, like you don't see Warworld and you don't really see Mongol. So it's just like it's like so
Well, even
I'm
if you
just
see
like
Mongol, even if you do see him in that bit, he doesn't do Mongol shit.
so what else do you have to say about this before we rate it?
I really like the
Oh,
Superman story.
oh yeah?
Like,
Okay.
yeah, I really like that one a lot. It felt like a Twilight Zone episode, not just the look, but even like how it played out. Like it reminds me of the one where the dude's like, yeah, I'm secretly the alien with the third hand, and then the other guy's like, hey, me too. And he's got the eye. Yeah, like it's kind of cool. But it didn't have that ironic ending. Even Superman, like they're trying to figure out who they are, what they do, and he's trying to push them in that direction. And he finally gets Martian Manhunter, that is. And then this one's like, yeah, it's like when he just they're trying to get Superman to kill, and he's just not doing it. Like, and they're all kind of pushing that, and he's like, nah. And it just cements, like, again, it's one of those things that says, like, they fucked up picking Snyder, man. To do a Superman story. Like, it's just they're rubbing it in his face.
Jay, what would you rate Justice League War World?
I'll give it a 2. The side stories were interesting. It would have been better off as an anthology and not trying to push it into their main narrative. Like that was a big mistake.
Oz Core, what would you rate Justice League War World?
I'm gonna go with 3. I do like some of the side stories. Uh, it actually starts to fall apart when you try to combine it to make it part of the grander story or whatever that they're trying to tell. But I wouldn't recommend people buy it. Like if it, I don't even think it's going to be on Max.
I think it
Whatever
is.
it streams on for free. I didn't see anything about it being on Max. So if it is, it hasn't been announced. It should be. It's their thing, but it might not. I don't know. Wherever you can stream it for free, I would try that.
Okay, cool. Moses Magnum, what do you rate Justice League War World?
I give it a 4 out of 5. I do feel like even if the little vignettes start at the beginning of what their little journey is, like I think the movie should have had at least a bookends of Warworld, of what they decided to, like, at least how, because they really did change how Warworld, what Warworld is. It's not like a Sakar Gladiator type world that we're used to. So they're doing it different. They're doing it more like Westworld. So a little bookend beginning maybe before the title screen can it kind of explain that they're changing it and why they're doing it, or how it connects to the movie before a little.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind being thrown in the middle, but give me that before the credits. That's just the cold open at this point. So
Yeah,
that would have made it a 5. But everything I like, Travis was good in it. Like the Superman story, I liked a lot. Wonder Woman story, I liked a lot. Yeah, I did catch myself saying, like, when are we gonna get to the Warworld stuff during these? But I was enjoying them anyway, so I'm like, okay, like, it became clear that they're simulations and they're stuck in these, and I started asking questions like, what are they doing with these superheroes in particular? Because they're just showcasing these 3 in the Warworld event. So, yeah, it did, though that all that I think knocks down the point for me. Because I do like the animation, the frame rate, they did everything. I've had issues with the cutting corners with DC in particular, and they've been doing pretty good the last few. So it moves smooth, it looks good. I like that dark outline. I'm in 4 out of 5.
at the end of the day, it just didn't grab me. There's not a lot to say other than that. It just didn't grab me. Like also too, it's like I just feel bad for the folks that may potentially buy this looking for a Justice League story, and you know they're gonna kind of get a Trinity story. that bothers me a little bit. So with that said, 2.